Hi everyone! Today we're talking about markers of reference. We're going to read through the text once. I know it looks like a short text, but we have a lot happening in it. So we'll read through the text once for fluency and to get a basic understanding of the information. Then we'll read through a second time and identify all of the markers of reference. Once we identify the markers of reference, we're going to decide whether they're singular or plural, and then we'll decide whether they refer to something that's alive or something that's not alive. These two steps help us when we read. They help us to narrow down. They help us to look more specifically at which nouns it could be referring to. I'll show you how to do this in just 1 minute. Once we decide if it's plural or singular, alive or not alive, then we will go and look backwards in the text to see if there are any nouns that fit. We'll look forward in the text to see if there are any nouns that would fit the sentence. And if there are none, we even look out of the text to see if the author could be referring to something that's not written inside. Usually, when we have empirical research articles or scholarly articles, we'll be referring out of the text to the author. They may say I, or it may be something that everyone knows. We'll say these days. And they won't define what these days are. They may not say these days, April 15th to April 30th. So we won't see outside the text very often, but we still have to look. So let's first start by reading through once for fluency and a basic understanding. Please follow along with my cursor. The respondent was asked, "Do you feel this kind of stress?" Stress means a situation in which a person feels tense, restless, nervous, or anxious, or is unable to sleep at night because his or her mind is troubled all the time. Great. Now let's go back to the first sentence and we'll see if we find any markers of reference. The respondent was asked, "Do you feel this kind of stress?" Now for me, I found two markers of reference. I saw you, and I saw this kind of stress. Let's start with you. You could be singular, could be plural, but it's definitely talking about something that's alive. So let's look backwards in the text to see if we can find a noun that is alive. The respondent was asked. Now we know from our lesson on simple sentences where the noun can be found. Respondent is the noun. Now respondent is singular, and respondent is definitely someone alive. So does the respondent feel this kind of stress? We plugged it back into the sentence. We asked ourselves, does who feel this kind of stress? Does the respondent feel this kind of stress? That makes sense to me. Let's move on to this. Let's move on to this kind of stress. Let's look again backwards to see if we can find a singular noun, because this is singular, but something that's not alive. Let's look again. The respondent was asked. Well, the only noun that we found before was respondent, but we decided that respondent, it is singular, but it's definitely alive. So it will not fit in for this. So this is not pointing backwards. Let's see if it's pointing forwards. What kind of stress does the respondent feel? Stress means a situation. A situation. This noun is singular, and it's definitely not alive. The rest of the sentence tells us more about this situation. The situation in which a person feels tense, restless, nervous, or anxious, or is unable to sleep at night because his or her mind is troubled all the time. This situation is the kind of stress we were talking about. This situation fits back into the sentence. So we know you is talking about the respondent. So does the respondent feel the stress that is characterized by a situation in which a person feels tense, restless, nervous, or anxious, or is unable to sleep at night because his or her mind is troubled all the time? That's just the first sentence. Let's look at sentence number 2 to see if we have any markers of reference in this sentence. Stress means a situation in which a person feels tense, restless, nervous, or anxious, or is unable to sleep at night because his or her mind is troubled all the time. Well, I saw 2 again. I see his and I see her. His or her mind. So whose mind is troubled all the time? That's the question I want to answer. When we see or, we should think back to our lesson on connecting expressions. Or tells us that there's choice. It might be his mind that's troubled all the time, or it might be her mind that is troubled all the time. But both of these words will refer back to the same noun. And that noun will be singular, and it will definitely be talking about something that's alive. Let's look backwards first, and then we'll look forwards if we still can't find the answer. Stress. Stress is a noun, and stress is singular, but stress is definitely not alive, so it will not fit into his or her. So stress means a situation. Again, we have a noun, and it's singular, but it's definitely not alive. So again, let's skip over that noun. Stress is a situation in which a person is singular, and it definitely is alive. So this may be the answer we're looking for. Let's highlight it in blue. In which a person feels tense, restless, nervous, or anxious, or is unable to sleep at night because his or her mind is troubled all the time. Night is a time of day. It's definitely not alive. And mind again is a noun, and it's singular, but the mind can't live on its own. And we're trying to find out whose mind. It wouldn't be the mind's mind. And those are all our nouns. So let's look back at a person. Whose mind is troubled all the time? A person's mind is troubled all the time. We've taken that noun and we've put it back into our sentence to see if it makes sense. And my mom just came home. We've made it all the way through our sentence. There are no more markers of reference. What we did, just as a recap, just as a reminder, We read through once for fluency and once to get a general understanding of the text. Then we read through a second time to find all markers of reference. When we found a marker of reference, like his or her, we first decided, is it plural or is it singular? Then we looked, is it alive or is it not alive? After we decided that, it was much easier to find the nouns that might fit back into the sentence. So we went and we looked backwards first. We read through. If we did not find the proper noun, we read forward. Again, if we did not find the proper noun, we could look outside of the text. In this case, we only had backward and forward pointing nouns. Let's do some practice together as a class now, back at the sentence level. Then we'll bring it into the text. Thanks for watching.